Imagine being a 20-year-old college guy, decent-looking, smart, but cursed with the absolute worst medical condition in human history. Meet Yang Dingtian. He possesses the legendary 9-yang body. Sounds cool, right? Well, it means his internal energy is a raging inferno, making him completely impervious to the freezing cold while eating like a bottomless pit without gaining an ounce. But here is the punchline. A filthy, wandering Taoist once gave him a grim prophecy. Because his yang energy is multiplied to infinity, he can never ever sleep with a woman. Hell, he can't even handle a little self-comfort. If he does, he will literally spontaneously combust and burn to death. Fast forward to his 20th birthday. The temptation becomes too much, and he sleeps with his incredibly sexy girlfriend, who also happens to be his teacher. Just as the Taoist predicted less than a minute into the greatest moment of his life, his body temperature skyrockets. Yang Dingtian literally bursts into flames right on top of his girlfriend, burning to death in the ultimate, agonizing climax. Thanks for the badass name, Dad, he thinks as his consciousness fades. When Yang Dingtian opens his eyes, he isn't in heaven or hell. He's buck naked in an impossibly deep, freezing ice cave. He looks up at the tiny patch of sky and sees two suns. Yep, transmigration. He's officially the only guy in history to Iska by combusting from losing his virginity. Driven by starvation and freezing temperatures, Dingtian uses his furnace-like body to melt a massive blue ice pillar in the center of the cave. Inside is a frozen, filthy, gray-haired old man. The moment the ice shatters, the old man's eyes snap open. He lunges at Dingtian, his razor-sharp fingernails digging straight into Dingtian's neck, screaming in some alien, ear-piercing language. The old guy is demanding answers, but Dingtian has no idea what he's saying. Suffocating, Dingtian lashes out with a desperate kick to the old man's chest. With a clear snap, the old man's frail, dry ribs break like brittle twigs. Despite the old man lying on the ice, spitting up black blood and cursing, Dingtian's good nature wins out. He crawls over and carefully resets the old man's broken ribs. The old man's thanks? Hovering his razor-sharp, blood-stained nails mere millimeters from Dingtian's eyeballs, threatening to blind him. Dingtian doesn't even blink, he just finishes the bandage job. Starving to the point of death, Dingtian collapses in the snow. Finally showing a sliver of humanity, the old man tosses him a glowing red roaring flame pill. Dingtian swallows it, and boom, it explodes in his stomach like a raging fire, instantly revitalizing his 9-yang body with boundless, explosive energy. With his energy restored, Dingtian begins an insane, grueling project. Building tens of thousands of ice stares up the sheer cliff face, step by agonizing step, relying entirely on intermittent snowstorms. While waiting for snow, the old man decides to teach him the language of this martial Tao-focused chaos continent. The old man is a ruthless, perfectionist teacher. If Dingtian mispronounces a word, the old man slaps him across the face. But because the old man's broken ribs haven't healed, the sheer force of slapping Dingtian makes the old man cough up blood. So, to be polite, Dingtian takes over the punishment. Every time he messes up a word, he brutally slaps his own face, beating himself into a swollen, bloody pighead just to spare the old man the effort. Satisfied with his crazy dedication, the old man introduces him to cultivation via the true Yang fist. He tells Dingtian to feel the profound qi in his lower abdomen, describing it like a little mouse jumping around. But this energy mouse is a massive troll. When Dingtian desperately tries to focus on it, the mouse plays hard to get and ignores him. When Dingtian gets frustrated and ignores it to practice his forms, the mouse aggressively jumps out, eager for attention. Dingtian spends over 7 months grinding away at this foundational stage. He is incredibly depressed, thinking his talent is absolute garbage. What he doesn't know is that the old man is keeping his eyes closed to hide his absolute shock. In this world, the most outstanding geniuses take years to complete what Dingtian just did in months. He is a once-in-a-millennium freak of nature. Just as Dingtian finishes the 99.99% mark of his massive ice staircase, the old man finally drops the act. He reveals his true identity, Dongfang Nimi, the legendary sect master of the Yin-Yang sect. He formally takes Dingtian as his sole direct disciple and the next sect master, slapping a magical, invisible ice and fire command ring onto his finger. Then comes the absolute jackpot. Dongfang Nimi betroths his own daughter, the jaw-droppingly gorgeous Dongfang Bingling, to Dingtian. She is an absolute beauty with a 9-yin body. But here is the massive catch. Because of her extreme yin energy, if she doesn't dual cultivate with a man possessing an equally extreme yang body in the next 3 years, she will die an agonizing death. Dingtian isn't just getting a wife. He has a literal life-or-death mandate to unite with her. Knowing his own life is at its absolute end, Dongfang Nimi decides to go out with a bang. Burning the last remnants of his life force, the decrepit old man transforms before Dingtian's eyes back into his prime, a majestic, handsome, and domineering sect master. He uses his terrifying pure yang profound strength to forcefully wash the marrow and cleanse the veins of Dingtian's body. The pain is beyond human comprehension. Dingtian feels like he is being incinerated by thousands of degrees of fire while simultaneously freezing in absolute zero. Yet fueled by his monstrous 9-yang body, Dingtian clears the brutal first layer in a mere hour, a process that takes normal prodigies days. Stunned by this impossible speed, Dongfang Nimi goes all in. He violently pushes the profound energy into the exponentially deadlier second layer. The excruciating process leaves Dingtian completely paralyzed, floating midair, covered in black sludge, hovering right on the razor's edge between agonizing death and divine rebirth. 2 hours of absolute, excruciating agony later, Yang Dingtian clears the second layer of his meridians. Dongfang Nimi is absolutely mind-blown. What took the legendary sect master a full month in his prime, this freak of nature just accomplished in 3 hours. So naturally, the crazy old man decides to double down and forcefully pushes that violent energy into the lethally dangerous third layer. 10 hours of literal hell pass. Dingtian survives the impossible, but the cost is devastating. Dongfang burns out the absolute last drops of his life force. The majestic, domineering sect master vanishes, reverting back into a frail, white-haired, dying old man who has used almost all of his profound strength. Gasping for his final breaths, Dongfang tells Dingtian that he is completely out of energy and that it is time for the kid to leave. He hands Dingtian an interspatial ring containing his personal treasure sword. But Dingtian is stubbornly loyal. Crying his eyes out, he flat-out refuses to leave without his master, trying to pick the old man up. Dongfang responds by physically striking him, pushing him away. The old man reveals a grim truth. His body is so thoroughly broken and decayed that if Dingtian even tries to carry him, he will literally crumble to dust. To lighten the mood, Dongfang tells him about the legendary weapon inside the ring, the blood-drinking sword, though he casually mentions it looks more like a rusty, garbage, pig-killing sword. Heartbroken and forced to obey, Dingtian climbs the final stretch of the ice stairs. The moment he hauls himself onto the surface, a massive shockwave erupts from below. Dongfang has destroyed the stairs, burying himself forever in the icy abyss. Screaming into the freezing wind, Dingtian vows to avenge his master and marry his daughter. Now stranded on the surface of the 10,000 miles glacier, Dingtian is freezing. He walks south for days, tracking the sun and moon, sustained entirely by the lingering thermal energy of the roaring flame pill in his stomach. Suddenly he stumbles upon a terrifying sight, a massive mutated white snow eagle violently tearing a giant snow bear to shreds. Dingtian tries to hide, but the giant bird spots him instantly. It dives like a fighter jet, slicing Dingtian's back open. Dingtian throws a desperate punch, and is shocked to realize just how insanely tough his marrow-washed body has become. Instead of finishing him off quickly, the sadistic bird decides to play a game of cat and mouse. It circles above, grabbing massive chunks of ice and dropping them on Dingtian like artillery shells. Cornered and battered, Dingtian finally remembers his master's parting gift. He summons the weapon from the spatial ring, and it really does look like a rusty piece of scrap metal, weighing a ridiculous 200+ caddies. When the giant bird swoops in for the lethal kill, Dingtian channels his newly forged profound chi into his arms, heaving the heavy, rusty junk sword upward. Schwing. The rusty blade slices straight through the beast's steel-like claws like warm butter. Terrified and bleeding, the crippled bird flees into the sky, leaving Dingtian to pass out from sheer exhaustion. When he finally wakes up, Dingtian stubbornly resumes his trek south. Eventually, the endless snow and ice abruptly give way to a scorching, desolate Gobi Desert. For a normal person, this drastic climate shift would be hell, but for Dingtian's 9-yang body, the intense heat feels absolutely amazing. However, the heat doesn't solve his raging thirst. After an agonizing trek through the wasteland, he spots a lush green oasis and a distant fortress. He rushes to the oasis river and drinks the water like a madman. But as he wipes his mouth, he freezes. Right there in the river, an impossibly beautiful girl is bathing stark naked. She spots him gawking at her. Instead of screaming or covering up, her eyes turn ice cold with pure killing intent, and she instantly fires a lethal, condensed arrow of water straight at him. The burden of legacy is a heavy thing, especially when you are a complete nobody carrying the soul of the greatest martial artist to ever live. Inside the spatial ring, the spectral consciousness of Dongfang Nimi breaks down the reality of Yang Dingtian's situation. Sure, Dingtian currently possesses zero cultivation, but his profound qi is an absolute blank slate paired with the terrifyingly rare 9 Yang body, making him the ultimate vessel for supreme power. Adding to the madness, City Lord Ximen Wuya of Cloud Firmament City officially lays his cards on the table. He wants Dingtian to inherit his entire city and marry his fiery, untamed daughter, Ximen Yanyan. Dingtian hesitates, pointing out that Yanyan currently wants to roast him alive. But Nimi just laughs it off, reminding him that the line between burning hatred and passionate love is razor-thin. Despite Dingtian politely declining the immediate marriage to prove he isn't just some opportunistic gold digger, Ximen Wuya's generosity doesn't waver. Before they part ways on the ship, the city lord hands Dingtian the Cultivation Yang secret art, a foundational manual custom-made to jumpstart his starved meridians without interfering with his future arts. Holding the priceless book, Dingtian's eyes burn with genuine emotion. In a cutthroat world where everyone is out for blood and power, Ximen Wuya's unconditional, fatherly support hits him like a freight train, cementing a bond of absolute respect. But the quiet moment on the sea doesn't last long. The ocean completely parts as if Moses himself commanded it. The entire fleet of merchant and war vessels grinds to a terrified halt, pulling over in deep reverence. Descending from the clouds on 3 colossal, majestic white birds are the untouchable elites of the profound heaven sect. Among them is Xianxia, the so-called #1 genius, strutting around like he personally owns the sky. Beside him stands Dongfang Bingeling, the icy, flawless fairy of the yin-yang sect, and technically Dingtian's rightful fiancé. The contrast is sickening. While Xianxia brags endlessly about his elite connections, and everyone trips over themselves to worship Bingeling as a descending goddess, Dingtian finds himself back in the cramped corridors dealing with a furious Ximen Yanyan, who is screaming at him to get out of her room after he hijacked her bed for his recovery. But when the arrogant elites try to put Yanyan down to elevate Bingeling's untouchable status, Dingtian refuses to stay quiet. Stepping up, he loudly declares that while Bingeling might be a rare, expensive flower raised in a pampered pot, Yanyan is a vibrant, breathtaking wild rose blooming fiercely on an untamed mountain, equally beautiful, but with twice the life and passion. That single, smooth-talking defense hits Yanyan like a critical strike. Her furious screeching grinds to an absolute halt. Blushing so hard her face turns the color of a ripe tomato, the fiery young miss forgets all about her anger, her eyes turning soft and intoxicated as she completely melts under his words. Meanwhile, Xianxia continues to run his mouth, boasting to the crowd about his deep, profound respect for the legendary sect master Dongfeng Nimi, the undisputed #1 expert of the Chaos continent. Dingtian just stands in the background, keeping his face deadpan to hide his dripping sarcasm. If only these arrogant prodigies knew that the mythical god they were worshipping was currently residing as a sarcastic ghost inside his cheap spatial ring, waiting for Dingtian to flip their entire elite world upside down. The naked beauty fires a lethal, condensed water arrow straight at Yang Dingtian's face, but his newly minted 9 Yang reflexes kick in just in time. He dodges by a hair's breadth, though the sheer kinetic force of the water blast completely blows his clothes to shreds, leaving him buck naked in the desert oasis. Before he can even process the embarrassment, the furious young woman launches a second, deadlier wave of attacks. Dingtian scrambles backward, desperately trying to explain that he's completely innocent and just dying of thirst, but she refuses to listen. With cold murder in her eyes, she summons a terrifying whirlwind of water and blades, forcing him to flee headfirst back into the scorching, unforgiving Gobi Desert. Stumbling away from the oasis, parched, exhausted, and completely naked, Dingtian wanders the wasteland until he collapses under the brutal heat. Just when he thinks he's about to die of dehydration in his second life, a passing caravan of rough-looking travelers spots him sprawled out on the sand. Thinking he's just another unfortunate victim of the desert, they toss him a water skin and some scraps, allowing him to pull himself back from the brink of death. Regaining his footing, Dingtian joins the caravan, using his sharp wit and easygoing charm to blend in while he tries to figure out where the hell he is on this massive, martial arts-dominated continent. The caravan's destination is none other than West Jing City, a massive, heavily fortified trading hub sitting right on the edge of the desert. As they approach the towering city gates, Dingtian realizes just how small he is in this sprawling world of martial artists and profound beasts. The guards inspect the caravan, and Dingtian successfully bullshits his way past security without arousing any suspicion about his lack of identity papers. Stepping into the bustling, chaotic streets of West Jing City for the first time, he feels like a country bumpkin in a sci-fi metropolis, marveling at the towering buildings, street vendors selling exotic magical items, and swaggering martial artists flexing their profound strength. Seeking a place to lay low and figure out his next move, Dingtian finds a cheap, run-down tavern to get some food and figure out how currency works in this crazy world. Naturally, his bottomless 9-yang appetite kicks in immediately. He orders enough food for 10 grown men, shocking the tavern keeper and causing a bit of a scene as he devours everything in sight without gaining an ounce of fat. While eating, he eavesdrops on the local gossip, picking up crucial whispers about local merchant guilds, powerful regional sects, and the rising tensions between factions in the city. As he sits back to digest his massive meal, a group of arrogant young martial artists walks into the tavern, acting like they own the place and immediately drawing the attention and quiet fear of everyone inside. Dingtian watches them with a smirk, fully realizing that his peaceful days of wandering are officially over. Now that he's armed with the true Yang Fist, a rusty giant sword in his spatial ring, and the legacy of the Yin-Yang sect master, his chaotic journey in the profound sky continent is only just beginning. The icy atmosphere in the Yin-Yang sect library turns suffocating as Dongfang Bingling looks Yang Dingtian dead in the eyes and drops the facade. She straight up asks him if he wants to marry her, and when Dingtian admits that he does, her tone goes completely arctic. She breaks down the brutal truth. She doesn't care about his feelings. To her, he is an insignificant nobody from the bottom rung of the martial world who stumbled upon her father's dying breath. She reveals her deep-seated resentment toward Dongfang Nimi, who abandoned her and her mother for a decade to chase crazy dreams, forcing them to endure humiliation until she clawed her way to the top alongside Zhu Hongsu. She demands that Dingtian surrender the sect master's command ring immediately, offering him a lifetime of riches and resources to get lost. But if he dares to cling to it, she promises he won't walk away in one piece. Giving him a 1-hour deadline to think it through, she turns on her heel and leaves him alone in the freezing library. Dingtian stands in his master's study, his knuckles turning white as rage and pride boil through his 9-yang veins. Surrendering the ring means spitting on Dongfang Nimi's legacy and bowing his head to arrogant hypocrites, and Dingtian would rather die standing. An hour later, the study door swings open, but it isn't Bingling. It's Zhu Hongsu, the so-called #1 young prodigy of the Chaos continent, strutting in with cold disdain. Zhu Hongsu treats Dingtian like a bug beneath his boots, sneering that talking to a peasant like him is an insult to his noble bloodline. When Dingtian mocks him for riding on the coattails of his ancestors, Zhu Hongsu snaps. He unleashes a brutal, overwhelming palm strike that hits Dingtian's chest like a 10-ton sledgehammer, sending him crashing backward while vomiting a fountain of blood. Before Dingtian can even catch his breath, Zhu Hongsu orders his disciples to cut off Dingtian's hands and rip out his tongue. Laughing like a madman through a mouth full of blood, Dingtian refuses to surrender the ring, declaring that he'd rather die than bow to them. Just as Zhu Hongsu's lethal blue flame blade descends to slice Dingtian in half and hurl him off the cliff, a terrifying, earth-shaking sword aura tears through the sky. A massive sword shadow swoops in, snatching Dingtian right out of midair from the jaws of death. It is City Lord Manhwa of Cloud Firmament City, stepping in with divine martial power to rescue him from the cliffside abyss. Manhwa brings Dingtian aboard his flagship and starts pouring his own massive, profound chi into Dingtian's shattered meridians to save his life. But Manhwa isn't just acting out of generic kindness. He is Dongfang Nimi's closest sworn brother, carrying a deep, 100-year-old blood debt to the Yin-Yang sect. Seeing Dingtian's unmatched 9-Yang foundation, Manhwa pleads with him to inherit Cloud Firmament City and marry his daughter, Yanyan. But Dingtian, bruised and battered, respectfully declines. After experiencing the betrayal of Dongfang Bingeling, Dingtian makes a vow to himself. Whatever he claims in this brutal world, he will take with his own two hands, not as a handout from anyone else. Ximen Wuya orders the entire fleet to raise all sails and row at maximum speed, desperate to reach the safe waters of the northwest continent before the Yin-Yang sect and Profound Heaven sect catch up. But the ocean suddenly fills with dense warships as Zhu Hongsu and Dongfang Bingeling corner them with their massive armada. Standing side by side at the bow like untouchable gods, they demand that Ximen Wuya hand over the fugitive. When Ximen Wuya fiercely defends Dingtian's legitimacy as Dongfang Nimi's chosen successor, Dongfang Bingeling steps forward, publicly declaring that Dingtian is a fraudulent clown who deserves to be cut into 10,000 pieces. With the standoff boiling over, the ultimate assassin of the Yin-Yang sect, Wu Ying, emerges from the shadows. Known as the Phantom Blade whose kills are instantaneous, Wu Ying challenges City Lord Ximen to a duel. Ximen Wuya glides off the ship and floats calmly above the open sea, shutting his eyes completely because Wu Ying's speed is so monstrous that looking with the eyes is already a death sentence. Wu Ying vanishes into the night wind, and the entire ocean goes dead silent as thousands of warriors hold their breath, waiting for the invisible strike that could end the Lord of Cloud Firmament City in a single second. The deck of the ship turns into an absolute meat grinder as the battles scale to terrifying heights. Wu Ying, the legendary assassin whose speed makes him practically a ghost, pushes Ximen Wuya to his absolute limit. Everyone assumes the City Lord is a lefty, but in a jaw-dropping twist, Ximen Wuya reveals his right-hand sword is even faster, a technique he hasn't had to use in half a lifetime. With a lightning-fast counter, he shatters Wu Ying's blade and pierces right through him, yet shows mercy by pulling his punch. Satisfied that he barely edged out a win, Wu Ying concedes defeat, acknowledges the City Lord's unmatched honor, and quietly takes his leave. Before anyone can catch their breath, Elder Ning Busey of the Yin-Yang sect steps up, a century-old monster wielding a legendary flame devil flood dragon martial soul. He unleashes a gigantic fire dragon that boils the sea and turns the night sky into a blazing inferno. Ximen Wuya counters with the Star Universe secret sword art, transforming his blade into a massive column of light and throwing everything he has into a cataclysmic clash. The resulting explosion is like a nuclear blast, tearing the night sky apart as both master-level titans trade blows that threaten to sink the fleet. Just as the smoke clears, a far more terrifying presence emerges from the dark, Sect Master Zhu Qingzhu of the Profound Heaven sect. Without even throwing a flashy technique, Zhu Qingzhu steps up to deliver a single, ordinary palm strike. The pressure is so immense it instantly vaporizes multiple massive ships into fine powder. Ximen Wuya takes the blow head-on, refusing to yield an inch, absorbing the devastating dark energy into his own body to protect everyone behind him. With the terrifying powerhouses temporarily stalemated, Dongfang Bingeling steps forward with the Yin-Yang Great Array, her dual-sword combination ready to obliterate Yang Dingtian once and for all. She refuses to listen to reason, declaring herself an untouchable star and treating Dingtian like an insignificant ant. But just as she raises her hundreds of meters-long blood-red giant sword to execute him, a heartbreaking figure steps out from the cabin. Madame Dongfang, Bingeling's own mother, pulls out a sharp dagger and presses it directly against her own delicate neck, crying out that if her daughter kills Yang Dingtian, she will die right there with him. Cornered by her mother's desperate ultimatum, a furious, tear-streaked Bingeling is forced to relent, locking eyes with Dingtian as she grants him a conditional 5-year grace period, swearing to slice him into 1,000 pieces if he dares show his face in 5 years. As the Yin-Yang sect finally retreats into the distance, a grim reality sets in behind closed doors. The seemingly unshakable City Lord Ximen collapses, revealing the horrific toll of Zhu Qingzhu's dark energy palm strike. The corrosive energy is rapidly blackening his blood and turning him into a bloodthirsty, mindless monster. Knowing he has moments left before losing his sanity completely, Ximen Wuya makes a heart-wrenching final decision. To secure Cloud Firmament City's future and bind Yang Dingtian to his adoptive family, he forces an immediate wedding. Right there by his bedside, Dingtian and a sobbing Ximen Yanyan kneel and bow to heaven and earth, legally binding their lives together. Having fulfilled his final wish and successfully protecting the young couple from immediate doom, City Lord Ximen slams his palm into his own heart to prevent the dark corruption from turning him into a monster. The pillars of Cloud Firmament City crumble in grief as their invincible protector passes away. Yet to prevent mass panic and keep rival sects from tearing them apart during their most vulnerable hour, Ximen Yanyan aggressively wipes away her tears, steps up with fierce resolve, and commands everyone to believe that her father has merely entered a 3-year closed-door healing meditation. But internal strife rears its ugly head immediately. An arrogant adoptive brother, furious that an outsider like Dingtian has suddenly been thrust above him as the rightful successor, throws a massive tantrum and threatens to split the city apart. Refusing to let the faction fracture from within, Dingtian steps forward and offers a cold, unyielding ultimatum, a 2-year death duel. To seal the pact, Dingtian smears his own blood across his face, taking a devastating blood oath to protect Yanyan with his life and destroy anyone who stands in his way, officially stepping up to shoulder the crushing weight of his new reality. The sea voyage finally comes to an end as Yang Dingtian and Ximen Yanyan step foot back onto the mainland of the northwest continent, transitioning to horses and carriages to cover the final 3,000 li to Cloud Firmament City. Throughout the grueling journey, Yanyan locks herself away in her cabin, drowning in relentless grief and refusing to eat or speak as she guards her deceased father's body. Dingtian sits right outside her door, refusing to leave or rest despite his own severe wounds. Breaking through her icy shell, Dingtian speaks from the heart, telling her that while his original drive was born from revenge and his master's dying wish, his most important mission now is to protect her happiness and bring back her fierce spirit. Though she remains guarded, her icy wall cracks just enough to let him in, acknowledging that her hatred for him has finally faded into a fragile, dutiful acceptance. As they approach the city gates, their worst fears of an ambush by rival sects are entirely subverted, not because enemies aren't waiting, but because the mere name of the late city lord strikes absolute terror into the hearts of outsiders. However, the real storm awaits them inside their own camp. Commander Ximen Lai of the Black Blood Rider Army, a massive, fierce-looking warrior built like a roaring lion, sweeps out with his elite troops to welcome them. The moment Yanyan reveals the tragic truth behind the curtains, showing him the lifeless body of City Lord Ximen, the unbreakable commander breaks down, shedding tears of blood as he clenches his teeth in agonizing, suffocating sorrow. Swearing absolute loyalty to Yanyan and her chosen husband, Ximen Lai pledges his entire army to their cause, though he warns them that the corrupt Elder Assembly will fight tooth and nail to tear Dingtian apart. That warning proves to be an understatement during the brutal Elder Assembly meeting. As soon as the coffin is revealed, the Assembly descends into chaotic hostility. Led by the scheming Great Elder Yang Yan and the vicious Tang Bajiao, the Elders flat-out reject Dingtian's legitimacy, mocking his low cultivation level as a newly enlightened nobody and attempting to strip him of the succession. To make matters infinitely worse, they shamelessly try to treat Yanyan as political property, plotting to auction her off as a bride to the hostile Northwest Qin family. When Yanyan's mother and the loyal faction draw their swords in fierce defiance, the elders prepare to massacre them all. Stepping directly into the line of fire, Dingtian halts the bloodshed by offering a desperate gamble, a trial by combat. He seizes upon a technicality in the city's rules regarding the upcoming annual elimination tournament, writing down a binding military order. His insane objective. Within just 15 days, he must pull off the impossible and leap 16 whole levels to break through to a 6-star profound martial artist, or else face immediate expulsion and forfeit Yanyan to their enemies. Locked away in his room that night, overwhelmed by the sheer insanity of a goal that no one in 1,000 years has ever achieved, Dingtian cries out for guidance. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoes inside his mind. Dongfeng Nimi's divine consciousness, a residual sliver of his soul preserved within Dingtian, awakens to offer his final, critical guidance before his energy fades forever. With his master's spirit standing by his side, Dingtian refuses to break. The next morning, Yanyan leads him deep into the dark, magma-scorched dungeons beneath the Black Blood Castle, bringing him face-to-face with an otherworldly, terrifyingly seductive woman locked inside a heavy iron cage. A centuries-old nine-tailed profound tail fire demon fox, sealed away by the former masters. The stage is set for a monstrous, reality-defying training arc where Dingtian must gamble his life to defy the odds. Deep in the subterranean dungeon, The centuries-old nine-tailed profound tail fire demon fox stares at Yang Dingtian with mesmerizing green pupils, her terrifyingly seductive naked form radiating an intense, chaotic heat. Far from being disgusted or terrified, the ancient demon beast lets out a purring laugh, observing Dingtian with an unsettling fondness. When Dongfang Bingling coldly demands to know how long it will take to push this newly enlightened nobody up to a 6-star profound martial artist, the demon fox casually calculates that it would normally take half a year, or 4 months if they resort to darker, riskier dual cultivation shortcuts. But Dongfang Bingling refuses to hand him over to such depraved methods just yet, deciding instead to give Dingtian a brutal trial of his own. She grants him a strict 10-day window to prove his worth through pure, unadulterated grit. Dragging him out to a roaring subterranean river of liquid magma, Bingling forces him to undergo a traditional bloodline talent test. As Dingtian plunges his bare hands into the superheated water, the pure flame energy within the current surges upward, reacting violently to his inner veins. To Bingling's sheer, jaw-dropping disbelief, the azure flames swell into a massive, towering blade of fire that surges out of the water, aggressively lunging right toward Dingtian's forehead before settling into an extraordinary top-tier resonance. He doesn't just possess a mediocre foundation. His latent potential is staggering, proving that both Dongfang Nimi and the late city lord Ximen didn't gamble on a fool. Yet possessing raw talent is only half the battle. To survive the grueling elimination tournament and the death contract he signed, Dingtian needs a lethal martial skill. Accompanied by a much softer, increasingly conflicted Ximen Yanyan, Dingtian steps into Cloud Firmament City's legendary merit depository pavilion, a towering 9-story stone pagoda where higher floors house increasingly devastating secret manuals. As they ascend the floors, browsing through high-grade and even master-level techniques, Dingtian feels an agonizing disconnect. Despite staring at prestigious manuals that ordinary disciples would kill to possess, his inner profound chi refuses to resonate with them. There is no spark, no fierce harmony, no sudden rush of destructive synchronization. Frustrated by his lack of alignment with standard martial arts, Dingtian demands to see the 10th room, the notorious garbage dump room where the sect casts away unranked, discarded, and incomprehensible junk scrolls left behind from ancient eras. Ignoring Yanyan's urgent warnings about cursed, useless scraps that have crippled martial artists in the past, Dingtian kicks open the heavy, dust-caked door. Amidst piles of rotting paper and forgotten trash, he begins sorting through the ruins until his fingers graze over a ragged, grease-stained manuscript titled with grotesque irony, "The Pig Slaughtering Sword Technique." As Dingtian picks up the wretched text and begins funneling his profound chi into its weathered pages, an unbelievable, reality-shattering miracle unfolds. Instead of rejecting him, the ancient parchment violently vibrates, glowing with an intricate web of golden runes that outshines every high-grade manual in the pagoda. The manuscript literally dissolves into particles of light, burning its supreme, unranked, heaven-defying secrets straight into his soul. Standing amidst the swirling dust with Yanyan staring at him like he's lost his absolute mind, Dingtian breaks into a slow, razor-sharp grin. Armed with an ancient, forbidden inheritance from another world and a master's legacy backing his name, the stage is set for the ultimate face-slapping rebellion. The moment Yang Dingtian absorbs the bizarre manual, his consciousness is violently pulled into a surreal, ethereal illusion. A white jade platform suspended amidst an endless sea of clouds where an enigmatic master named Zuwu Pyoyan awaits. Zuwu Pyoyan explains the profound paradox of the pig-slaughtering sword technique. Despite its crude, unranked name, it is actually the supreme, hidden inheritance of the Nothingness 9 Tribulation sword, a technique that returns to simplicity and strips away all superficial flashiness to achieve absolute, devastating power. As Dingtian is put through the rigorous trials of the first and second tribulations, the Descend to Earth sword and the Living Being sword, he learns that true martial supremacy lies in mastering the universe's foundational laws. To bridge the astronomical 16-level gap in just 15 days, Zuwu Pyoyan reveals an insanely dangerous method, building a complex 5-element array on a precisely split circle of yin and yang to forcefully harvest torrential amounts of wild, profound qi from the environment. However, this method requires absolute independence and relentless, near-fatal physical execution. When Ximen Yanyan discovers the horrific physical toll this path is taking on him, a bitter and desperate rift opens between them. Begging him to choose a safer, tried-and-true method using a high-grade, profound pill, Yanyan breaks down in tears, warning him that he is marching blindly into the exact same self-destructive dead end as his predecessors. When Dingtian refuses to compromise on his chosen path, accusing him of choosing a hallucination over his own wife, a heartbroken Yanyan declares that from this day forward, they will share nothing more than an empty title, fleeing the room in despair. Left completely alone, Dingtian steels his resolve, pushing his battered body into an absolute frenzy of training. Day and night, through scorching heat and bitter cold, he executes the brutal stances of the pig-slaughtering sword technique hundreds of thousands of times, his iron sword shattering into jagged pieces while his hands bleed profusely onto the unyielding stone. He forces every muscle fiber to cry out for nourishment, absorbing the chaotic elemental energy through sheer, unbreakable willpower. As the 15th day arrives, the cold winds of doubt and public mockery swirl around Cloud Firmament City. The onlookers and hostile elders gather with sneering grins, fully convinced that the idiot's son-in-law has thoroughly failed and will be cast out in disgrace. Yet just as the tension reaches a fever pitch and the hostile elders prepare to enforce their cruel verdict, the heavy atmosphere shifts. Breaking through her own stubborn grief, a tear-streaked Ximen Yanyan rushes through the crowd, stepping past the whispering skeptics to gently grab his bloodied, broken hand. Looking into his exhausted, fiery eyes, she casts away all hesitation, whispering softly, "Let's go home." The night before his grueling training regimen begins, Yang Dingtian sits with Ximen Yanyan in a room heavy with unspoken sorrow and exhausting tension. Knowing the immense burden resting on his shoulders, Yanyan shares the bed with him, their bodies pressed together to offer mutual warmth against the biting cold of their hostile world. Though she sheds silent tears in the dark, mourning her father and the terrifying uncertainty of their future, Dingtian pulls her close, gently kissing her eyelids and forehead in a tender display of deep emotional connection. He promises her with absolute conviction that he will either return in 15 days having broken through to a 6-star profound martial artist, or he will never show his face again. Seeking guidance on how to properly set up the 5-element array required by his training, Dingtian seeks out the reclusive beast Master Ximen Ningning. Standing beneath the trees, Ningning's breathtaking, willow-like curves and ethereal beauty are instantly captivating, yet her cold, isolated demeanor keeps everyone at a distance. When she learns of his insane 15-day deadline, she watches as Yanyan's precious Phoenix Flame profound pill is crushed into dust, a devastating moment of defiance where Yanyan casts away the easy path to trust entirely in Dingtian's chosen method. Deeply moved by their desperate resolve, Ningning decides to help. She steps away briefly and returns with her most priceless personal possession, the deep-sea profound clothes, a garment crafted from the shed skin of a high-level water-type monster. Slipping it on will protect Dingtian's upper body from the deadly backlash of elemental beasts during his hunts. With his defenses secured, Dingtian's next crucial step is forging his own ultimate weapon, guided by the profound legacy of Dongfang Nimi. To craft a blade that can grow infinitely and rival Dongfang Bingling's supreme martial soul, he must venture into the treacherous Scarlet Wilderness to hunt down a dragon-descendant monster beast, extract its core, and harvest rare blood-black gold. Trekking deep into the Crimson Badlands, Dingtian puts his rigorous sword training to the ultimate test when a massive, armored, flaming demon wolf ambushes him out of nowhere. Reacting with lightning-fast precision honed from hundreds of thousands of repetitions of the pig-slaughtering sword technique, Dingtian executes piercing the throat bloodletting, driving his iron sword straight into the beast's neck. While his initial strike struggles against the wolf's steel-like hide, the sheer kinetic force forces him to readjust and prepare for a brutal, high-stakes battle. Just as he secures a fist-sized lump of heavy, dark purple blood-black gold from the stone, the sky suddenly darkens. A haughty, greedy young martial artist drops down from the back of a flying griffin beast, sneering with open contempt as he attempts to rob Dingtian of his hard-earned treasure, setting the stage for a violent, face-slapping clash in the wilderness. The Scarlet Wilderness turns into an absolute slaughterhouse as Zhu Hongsu reveals his lethal, malicious intent. Seeing Dingtian's astonishing resilience, Zhu Hongsu panics and resorts to swallowing a high-grade, violent, profound pill. His skin instantly turns blood red, his eyes blaze with a demonic fire, and his profound chi surges to terrifying heights, temporarily multiplying his combat power. Laughing maniacally, he launches a vicious barrage using the drawing blossoms baptizing sword art, aiming straight for Dingtian's groin with the intent to brutally castrate and humiliate him. Every single strike is coated in venomous malice, forcing Dingtian into the absolute jaws of death, where a single misstep means total annihilation. Yet, fueled by a mixture of cold fury and the master-level precision of the pig-slaughtering sword technique, Dingtian refuses to break. Relying on the art of returning to simplicity, he reads through the chaotic web of sword shadows, hunting for the precise sword-eye weakness. Just as Xianxia unleashes his ultimate multi-pronged onslaught that shreds Dingtian's skin and draws rivers of blood, Dingtian spots his opening. With ruthless execution, he unleashes piercing the throat bloodletting and digging the heart from the lung, driving his cracked iron sword straight through Xianxia's chest. Even as Xianxia screams in terror and tries to fight back, Dingtian grabs the blade with his bare, blood-soaked hand, twists it with savage finality, and lops off his enemy's head, leaving the arrogant young master's corpse to be melted down into nothingness by the raging magma abyss below. Wiped out, bleeding from 100 wounds, and stumbling on the edge of consciousness, Dingtian spots an otherworldly, glowing, multi-petaled flower blooming on a cliff face nearby, a legendary medicinal herb that radiates a mysterious, sweet aroma. Before he can even catch his breath, a terrifying 45-meter-long wind shadow demon snake materializes out of thin air, its stealth, flight, and invisible attacks making it infinitely more dangerous than the wolf. The snake wraps its massive, thousand-jin body around Dingtian, crushing his ribs and cutting off his oxygen. Thinking fast under Dongfang Nimi's frantic mental guidance, Dingtian plucks the glowing flower, shoves it into his mouth without swallowing it, and plays dead. The strategy works to a terrifying degree. The demon snake, utterly obsessed and addicted to the mystical plant's narcotic fragrance, enters a state of absolute drunken euphoria, completely letting down its guard. The moment its transparent protective eyelid drifts open in a haze of bliss, Dingtian springs back to life like a coiled spring. Using the pig-slaughtering sword technique, he violently stabs into its eyes, blinds it, and slices straight through its belly to rip out its core and heart. Standing victorious amid a sea of blood, he completes the impossible trial just as Ximen Ningning arrives on her swift flying ray, deeply panicked and desperate to bring him back. Back at Ningning's quiet alpine cabin, Dingtian is submerged in a healing medicinal barrel while Ningning tends to his mangled flesh with soothing, milky white liquids. The air grows thick with awkward electric tension when Dingtian realizes the powerful medicine has completely dissolved his pants, leaving him sitting in the tub fully exposed and entirely battle-ready. Before they can fully recover their composure, a frantic Ximen Yanyan bursts into the room, sending Ningning into a nervous panic to hide Dingtian's embarrassing predicament. Once Yanyan leaves, the tragic truth finally comes to light. Consumed by the regression of her profound veins and the hopelessness of Dingtian's seemingly delusional 15-day breakthrough trial, Yanyan has made the irrevocable decision to pack her bags and journey to the legendary, terrifying Netherworld Sea, a chillingly ruthless domain rumored to bring the dead back to life at an unimaginably cruel cost. Desperate to stop her from walking into a literal death trap, Dingtian storms out of the cabin in the dead of night and heads straight to the grand guest pavilion. There, he confronts an arrogant, jade-like youth named Song Yu, who stands draped in flowing blue robes with an infuriatingly smug aura, casually discussing Yanyan's departure. Refusing to let anyone steal his wife or manipulate her despair, Dingtian locks eyes with the handsome cultivator, ready to wage war against the entire world to keep her by his side. The bedroom turns into a chaotic battlefield of emotions and raw physical friction as Yang Dingtian aggressively pins down a furious Ximen Yanyan and unleashes a barrage of hard, resounding swats across her plump, tender rear. Shocked, humiliated, and utterly short-circuited by the fact that her usually gentle and submissive husband has suddenly turned into a dominant tyrant, Yanyan fights back with the wild fury of a trapped cat. She claws at his face, punches him black and blue, and kicks with all her might, turning the floor into a tangle of wrestling limbs. But Dingtian refuses to back down, matching her stubbornness blow for blow until he subdues her frantic struggles and leans in to capture her lips with a fierce, punishing, yet deeply consuming kiss. As his hands wander across her curves and his tongue invades her mouth, her fiery resistance melts into a dizzying, electric haze of breathless surrender and overwhelming confusion. Panting and thoroughly overwhelmed, Yanyan retreats under the cover of the bed, clutching her pride while Dingtian calmly tells her to rest up, stand by him for 5 days, and trust that he will secure her freedom without selling her soul to the netherworld sea. Leaving Yanyan to process the emotional hurricane he just unleashed, Dingtian stumbles back to Ximen Ningning's quarters, looking like he just survived a war zone with a bruised face and shredded clothes. Ningning can't help but hide an amused smile, noting that his unconventional method of talking some sense into his stubborn wife is remarkably similar to how her own adoptive father used to handle domestic disputes. Turning business to survival, Ningning uses her network of information birds to uncover a glimmer of hope. Deep inside the heavily guarded territory of the Northwest Qin family lies an abandoned, decades-old demon silver mine cave. Thanks to a recent earthquake, a pool of miraculous unfrozen water, so cold it defies ice formation and glows around -80 degrees, has welled up from the deep earth, creating the exact environment where rare metal and ice-type beast cores can form. Even better, Dongfang Nimi's divine consciousness whispers that this massive cold anomaly heavily hints at the presence of a legendary blood-black gold mineral lode. Knowing the grave danger of trespassing into enemy territory, Dingtian prepares for the journey. To blend in, Ningning uses a miraculous, living imaginary mask that seamlessly grafts itself onto Dingtian's skin, transforming him into an impossibly handsome youth, while she uses intricate medicinal pastes to morph her own face and don an alluring crimson dress that embodies the definition of a siren. Disguised as the infamous fort master Qin Hongmian and her companion, they slip across the border into a bustling market town controlled by the Iron Sword Fortress, a puppet faction secretly leaning toward the hostile Qin family. As they sit down at a crowded local tavern to grab a meal, the surrounding tables buzz with malicious gossip regarding Cloud Firmament City's impending doom, with arrogant martial artists drooling over Yanyan's beauty and mocking Dingtian as an incompetent madman. Before Dingtian can snap under the provocation, an oppressive, chilling aura sweeps through the room. Manager Ximen, a terrifying internal affairs enforcer from Cloud Firmament City, strides into the tavern. Without batting an eye, he executes a gossiping martial artist with a flick of his sleeve, turning the man's head into a bloody pulp for daring to speak ill of the sect. Manager Ximen's sharp eyes immediately lock onto Ningning and her disguised companion, walking right up to their table to inquire about their presence in enemy territory. Feigning nonchalance, Ningning plays the part of the flirtatious rogue, while Dingtian plays the silent, handsome subordinate. Suspecting they are being tailed and closely watched even after securing the finest room at the local inn, Dingtian and Ningning realize they are standing on the razor's edge of exposure. To convince the watcher lurking outside that they are nothing more than a hedonistic couple indulging in private pleasures, Ningning initiates an intensely daring act. What starts as a theatrical performance of fiery kisses and whispered warnings quickly spins out of control. As Manager Ximen's men continue to eavesdroppingly monitor the room, Ningning discards her outer garments, pressing her flawless, smooth skin against Dingtian's chest in a desperate bid to maintain their cover. Caught between the crushing weight of their survival and the intoxicating heat of the moment, both of them cross the line from acting into absolute reality. Amidst racing heartbeats and breathless, wildfire passion, they lose themselves entirely in the raw, consuming tide of an accidental, unforgettable embrace. The boundary line of the northwest continent looms large as Yang Dingtian and Ximen Ningning approach the massive Abyss Bridge, disguised as the enigmatic fort master Qin Hongmian and her subordinate. Riding through the checkpoint without raising suspicion, they quickly dismiss their cart driver and veer off the paved road into the desolate, overgrown wilderness. But fate loves to throw a wrench into quiet getaways. Suddenly the ground shakes, and a high-ranking patrol unit led by Xianxia, the arrogant, predatory young master of the Northwest Qin family, sweeps into view. Xianxia, notorious for his twisted obsession with discarding women while refusing to let anyone else touch them, casts a lingering, lecherous glance at Ningning's disguised form, sneering with open contempt before riding past. Dingtian white-knuckles his reins, suppressing his boiling rage as he realizes that this arrogant sadist is a marked man on his execution list. Plunging deep into the deserted, rotting remains of the old mining camp, Dingtian prepares to enter the infamous Demon Silver mine cave. Before he steps into the pitch-black abyss, Ningning hands him her prized flame feather, a super-sharp blazing blade forged from the mold of a profound sky demon phoenix, and warns him of the deadly monsters lurking within. Taking a deep breath, Dingtian steps past the iron-jawed cave entrance into the freezing, graveyard-quiet tunnels. His mission is crystal clear. Navigate the labyrinth, hunt down a metal-type beast for its core, and reach the legendary unfrozen pool at the bottom before sundown. Navigating the winding, gray-ash tunnels, Dingtian deploys a cunning strategy. Instead of hunting blindly, he takes a fist-sized chunk of heavy blood black gold and drops it near the center, using its rich, magnetic energy as ultimate bait. Within minutes, the tunnel echoes with the frantic scuttling of dozens of armored metal eater beasts and venomous metal eater demon rats. As the creatures swarm the bait, they turn on each other in a bloody, mindless frenzy, tearing chunks of flesh away in a chaotic battle royale. A lightning-fast metal eater demon rat tries to blindside Dingtian with a vicious, low-aimed bite to his groin, but Dingtian's pig-slaughtering sword technique executes one cut two slices with supernatural precision. The flame feather blade slices through its steel-like hide like butter, instantly searing the wound shut and dropping a glowing, walnut-sized metal monster core right into his hands. With his first core secured, Dingtian presses deeper into the sub-zero cavern where the unfrozen pool glows with an ethereal, icy luminescence. But the real boss of the cave is waiting. As the remaining low-level beasts duke it out, a massive, 45-meter-long metal eater demon lizard, a terrifying aquatic reptile built like an armored crocodile, erupts from the shadows. It effortlessly slaughters the remaining rats and locks its chilling green eyes directly onto Dingtian, recognizing him as the ultimate prize. Spitting a blinding wave of scorching fire to force a retreat, the cunning beast lunges for a lethal bite. Refusing to panic, Dingtian stands his ground, takes the full brunt of the fiery blast, protected only by the miraculous deep-sea profound clothes, and swings the flame feather with blinding speed. The blade cleaves the giant lizard straight through the brain, ending the nightmare in a split second, and yielding an even purer, brighter metal core. 2 down, 1 to go. Dingtian slides down the icy cavern wall to the edge of the unfrozen pool to hunt for an ice-type beast core from the resident 4-feet-cold snakes. Finding that the water-dwelling serpents refuse to take the bait on land, a desperate Dingtian takes a deep breath and plunges directly into the -70-degree water. The bone-numbing cold threatens to instantly crystallize his blood, and 2 vicious water snakes latch onto his legs, injecting a freezing venom that turns his limbs completely numb. Relying on his resilient 9-yang profound vein to circulate raging heat through his veins, Dingtian explodes out of the water, slices the attacking serpents to pieces with acrobatic swordplay, and rips out the crystalline ice cores from their skulls. Standing victorious with 3 glowing monster cores in his possession, Dingtian feels an overwhelming sense of triumph. But that euphoria is instantly shattered. From the echoing darkness of the cavern, a harsh, grating voice cuts through the silence. A haggard, skeletal old man with sunken eyes steps out from a fractured ice wall, casually mocking Dingtian for risking his life for mere beginner materials. Before Dingtian can even react, an invisible wave of terrifying Grandmaster pressure rips the box of precious monster cores straight out of his hands. The mysterious expert demands to know the exact secrets of the 5-element array Dingtian is trying to build, leaving the young hero trapped in a nightmare scenario where all his hard-earned gains are about to be crushed into nothingness. Yang Dingtian's harrowing descent into the freezing depths of the unfrozen pool turns into a miraculous discovery. Instead of freezing to death, he breaches an anti-gravity zone, plunging through an inverted hourglass pool to emerge in a breathtaking cavern completely covered in ice. There, guided by Dongfang Nimi's spectral consciousness, he uncovers an immense, history-making load of over 900 pieces of supreme, top-purity blood black gold, the ultimate material for forging a legendary sword. However, guarding this underground treasure in the boiling magma below is a terrifying, massive magma-dwelling monster beast. Realizing he lacks the strength and a world-profound fire to claim the massive deposit now, and pressed by the urgent 4-day countdown to the 300-year Yin-Yang festival to save Ximen Yanyan, Dingtian wisely decides to retreat. Ascending back through the mine tunnels, Dingtian is confronted by the sadistic and unhinged Zhao Wuji, the sinister master of Terror Mountain Village who had been tracking him. Believing he has trapped and deceived Dingtian into a dead end, Zhao Wuji gloats and attempts to steal his hard-earned monster cores before killing him. But when Zhao Wuji greedily touches a piece of blood-black gold embedded in the chamber wall to claim it as his own, he unwittingly provokes the sleeping giant. The colossal magma monster bursts from the depths, brandishing a 100-meter flame whip that cuts Zhao Wuji cleanly in two with a single strike. As Zhao Wuji lies dying in a pool of his own blood, paralyzed from the waist down and gasping his last breaths, he begs Dingtian to deliver a final warning message and jade pendant to his son at Terror Mountain Village, revealing that a catastrophic event involving a sealed millennium owl beast is about to destroy the village. With a twisted final fit of malice, Zhao Wuji tries to lash out with a hidden poison needle, but he expires instantly on the stone floor. Securing the token, Dingtian carries out 45 blocks of blood-black gold across multiple grueling trips through the freezing pool, completes his monster core collection by hunting the final cold snake, and prepares to return to the surface with the materials needed to forge his destiny. Deep in the forbidden depths of the abandoned mine tunnels, Yang Dingtian's hunt for materials turns into a nightmare when a massive, 45-meter-long fire demon earth dragon bursts from the shattered ground, drawn by the rich energy of the blood-black gold. This terrifying beast is a walking catastrophe. Its corrosive blood instantly dissolves steel swords down to the hilt. Its body is armored with thousands of venomous parasitic barbs, and even when sliced into 4 separate pieces by Dingtian's flame feather blade, the pieces continue to hunt him independently before aggressively stitching themselves back together. Pushed to the absolute brink, Dingtian lures the regenerative monster back toward the sub-zero unfrozen pool. When the beast charges in, Dingtian splashes the -80-degree mineral water onto it, causing the creature's lower body to instantly petrify and freeze solid. Trapped and helpless, the earth dragon is swiftly decapitated, allowing Dingtian to harvest its precious monster core and escape. Emerging from the depths, Dingtian is horrified to find that Ximen Ningning has been ambushed and severely injured by a 4-member assassination squad sent by the predatory young Lord Xianxia to eliminate them out of twisted possessive jealousy. Though Ningning managed to temporarily freeze 3 of the assassins using a rare spiritual immobilization technique, her profound energy was completely exhausted. In a brutal high-stakes clash, Dingtian taps into the full, savage might of the pig-slaughtering sword technique, executing cutting the head and 1 cut 2 slices, to butcher the black-robed assassin and the scarred thug. The remaining ringleader, a yellow-robed martial artist, attempts to use Ningning as a human shield, but Dingtian shows zero mercy, driving a dagger straight into his groin and executing him after dragging out a confession confirming that Xianxia ordered the hit. To heal Ningning's internal injuries and the dangerous frost poison coursing through her veins, Dingtian unhesitatingly slashes open his own wrist, feeding her his potent, feverish 9 yang blood. The divine blood acts as an instant, overbearing cure, neutralizing the toxin and restoring her vitality. As they recover in a secluded mountain hot spring, Ningning reveals a priceless spatial storage ring, a miraculous medium connected to a 3-foot square spatial pocket, allowing Dingtian to easily pack away over 1,000 caddies of newly excavated blood-black gold without leaving any traces behind. With their supplies secured and the 4-day countdown to the elimination tournament ticking away, the Duke formulates a daring infiltration plan. Disguised once again as Fort Master Qin Hongmian and her companion, they ride straight into the notoriously fortified Terror Mountain Village, the stronghold of the Northwest Qin family, where a legendary lightning-type millennium owl beast is rumored to be sealed deep within the dungeons. Welcomed by the fawning local lord, they are given a luxurious courtyard known as the Fengqi Pavilion to rest for the night. However, the eerie peace of the pavilion is abruptly shattered in the dead of night when a terrifying, pale-faced female ghost with glowing green eyes and bleeding orifices materializes over their bed, screaming accusations of murder, and binding them with suffocating, shadowy spiritual cords. The infiltration of Terror Mountain Village reaches a critical and tense turning point as Yang Dingtian and Ximen Ningning use a specialized night eye bird to survey the massive, multi-acre stronghold from the sky. They map out its 5-pointed star layout, discovering that the ultimate central point of the village, the towering Black Pagoda Vault, houses the heavily guarded, sealed lightning-type Millennium Owl beast. However, their clever disguise as Fort Master Qin Hongmian and her companion is suddenly shattered right before their eyes. Young village master Zhao Mu reveals that he saw straight through their deception from the very beginning, having recognized that the woman who escorted them to the guest pavilion was not his true wife. Rather than instantly killing them, Zhao Mu plays along to corner them, revealing his malicious intent to eliminate them or hand them over to the Northwest Qin family. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet fractures, and the pair plummet through a secret trapdoor into a colossal underground volcanic cavern. 10,000 meters below lies an expansive, boiling ocean of red-hot magma, and looming within it is the monstrous, terrifyingly powerful Millennium Owl, whose thunderous presence shakes the cavern walls. 4 black-robed Grandmaster enforcers corner Dingtian and Yanyan on a floating stone slab, and one of them violently strikes Dingtian, hurling his body directly toward the deadly magma abyss below. Miraculously surviving the near-death fall, Dingtian faces Zhao Mu face-to-face in the subterranean prison and pulls out a crucial ace, the black jade pendant belonging to Zhao Mu's disabled, crippled father, Zhao Wuji. The revelation stops Zhao Mu dead in his tracks. As Dingtian recounts how he encountered the old man in a distant cave and learned of his tragic fate, Zhao Mu breaks down in agonizing, heart-wrenching tears, mourning his father's demise. Transformed by grief and a newfound sense of respect, Zhao Mu's hostility vanishes, shifting into a fragile alliance where he promises to treat Dingtian and Ningning as honored guests and helps shield them from the prying eyes of the Qin family spies. Behind closed doors, the mysterious elderly master trapped or traveling alongside them unveils a shocking truth. He saw right through Dingtian's fabricated lies about the Fire Cloud Demon Cave, deducing that Zhao Wuji's death was directly tied to Dingtian himself. Yet, recognizing Dingtian's extraordinary character and ironclad willpower, the old master chooses not to expose him. Instead, he reveals a profound method to heal Ximen Ningning's lingering frost poison using Dingtian's potent, life-restoring 9-yang blood via specialized jade needles, cementing an unexpected bond of trust. As the narrative hurtles toward its climax, Dingtian confronts the ultimate hurdle: how to kill the legendary, heavily armored Millennium Owl to harvest its rare lightning-type beast core within the tight countdown before the elimination tournament. Dongfang Nimi's spectral consciousness points out the nearly impossible barrier. The beast's outer skin is hardened by centuries of lightning strikes, rendering ordinary weapons completely useless unless pierced by an extreme-grade blood-black gold sword. With only 2.5 days left before the Yin-Yang Festival and the deadline to save Ximen Yanyan from expulsion, Dingtian realizes he must take a desperate gamble to secure a weapon powerful enough to defy the heavens and rewrite his fate. The endgame begins in the subterranean volcanic caverns of Terror Mountain Village as Yang Dingtian confronts his greatest challenge yet, executing the ancient, heavily armored Millennium Owl beast. With the historic 300-year Yin-Yang Festival rapidly approaching, the solar eclipse inches closer, plunging the continent into eerie, creeping darkness. But Dingtian faces a crushing hurdle. The ancient blood-black gold sword forged by Dongfang Nimi carries an unstable, tyrannical sword spirit. Anyone who grips it for more than 3 agonizing breaths without supreme mastery will have their mind ripped apart and their body obliterated. To make matters worse, the owl's outer hide is completely impervious to ordinary blades, hardened by centuries of raw lightning. Enter Ximen Ningning with a desperate, game-changing ace, a vial of deadly deep-sea profound poison. Creeping up to the edge of the floating stone platform, Dingtian drops the lethal venom onto the colossal beast wallowing in the boiling magma. The potent poison reacts instantly, turning the creature's fiery red skin into an eerie, petrifying, corpse-like green as paralysis crawls up its massive body. But just as victory seems within reach, disaster strikes. Ningning, exhausted and overextended, succumbs to her own internal injuries and the rebound of the poison, collapsing helplessly into paralysis right on the battlefield. Refusing to abandon her, Dingtian tells her to focus on self-healing while he steps directly into the jaws of death. As the total eclipse peaks and the world turns pitch black, the trapped Millennium Owl suddenly breaks free from its paralysis through sheer berserk willpower, roaring with terrifying fury as it shatters its heavy chains and takes flight. Dingtian leaps from the collapsing stone platform, plunging through falling boulders and surging lava. Seizing the razor-sharp blood-black gold sword, He endures the agonizing backlash of the rebellious sword's spirit and drives the blade deep into the exact weak point scar on the owl's head. The beast shrieks in absolute agony, its flesh violently splitting open as it tries to self-destruct and drag Dingtian and Ningning down to hell with it. But Dingtian holds on with ironclad, white-knuckled grit, riding the beast as it blasts straight through the solid stone ceiling into the open sky. With a final, earth-shattering shockwave, the legendary Millennium Owl disintegrates into sparkling particles of dust, leaving behind only the pristine, glittering lightning-type monster core. Instantly, the 300-year Yin-Yang festival unleashes a cataclysmic surge of the universe's purest, unadulterated primal profound qi across the land. Feeding the final lightning core into the preset 5 elements Yin-Yang array, the torrent of elemental energy converges into a roaring vortex that rushes directly into Dingtian's pores. His starved meridians drink in the divine energy like a man dying of thirst in a desert leaping into a fresh oasis. Sweeping away his past limits, Dingtian shatters through barrier after barrier in a miraculous, jaw-dropping cultivation explosion. Leaping 16 whole levels in a single, earth-shaking bound, he triumphantly breaches the 6-star profound martial artist milestone just in time for the elimination tournament, slamming the door on his doubters and securing his rightful place by Yanyan's side. The universe plays its most absurd, mind-bending jokes when you least expect it. 10 days ago, Yang Dingtian was written off as a complete, hopeless fool, a newly enlightened nobody who dared to bet his life and his wife's honor on a lunatic's 15-day breakthrough trial. As the sun dips toward the horizon on the final day of the historic Yin-Yang festival, Ximen Yanyan stands outside the grand arena of Cloud Firmament City, her chest heavy with suffocating despair. Clutching a packed travel bundle and gripping a long-awaited sword, she stares empty-eyed at the western horizon. Dingtian hasn't appeared. The sun is setting, the elimination tournament is reaching its final, brutal stage, and every sneering elder in the assembly is already preparing to tear her away and cast her husband out in absolute disgrace. A single tear rolls down her cheek as she whispers into the wind that even if he failed, she would have forgiven him, yet he didn't even show up to fight. Just as the sun's final red sliver threatens to swallow the earth, a piercing, majestic cry echoes through the heavens. A massive, roaring, wandering ray beast plunges out of the clouds, blocking the setting sun and landing with a thundering crash right before the gates. Standing atop the beast are Ximen Ningning and a glowing, completely uninjured Yang Dingtian. The crowd gasps as Dingtian leaps down from a terrifying 50-foot height without a single scratch, landing lightly on his feet before turning to offer a deeply respectful bow to Senior Zhao, the mysterious master who smuggled him back inside a hollow coffin within the corpse-filled vaults of Terror Mountain Village to bypass the border guards. With seconds to spare before his disqualification, Dingtian strides into the massive, packed martial arts arena. The atmosphere instantly shifts from a tense hush to an explosion of mocking whispers and sharp jeers. Thousands of disciples and rival elders lean forward from the grandstands, sneering at the legendary waste who somehow managed to crawl back from the dead just to humiliate himself. Sitting among the high-ranking elders, Great Elder Yang Yan and Tang Bajao exchange smug, bloodthirsty grins. They have already rigged the arena rules into a ruthless, unrelenting wheel combat tournament. Dingtian's very first opponent is a smug, mid-tier profound martial warrior selected by the hostile faction specifically to carve him open and turn him into mincemeat. Stepping onto the blood-stained stone platform, Dingtian doesn't even bother to draw a defensive stance. He stands completely relaxed, his eyes locked onto his opponent with an eerie, terrifying calm. The arrogant challenger sneers, mocking Dingtian's pathetic reputation and raising his razor-sharp blade with the clear intent to gut him live on stage. Whispers ripple through the terrified crowd, with many spectators instinctively turning their heads away, unwilling to watch a newly enlightened rookie get sliced into raw ribbons of meat. The challenger launches forward like a bolt of lightning, channeling his full profound strength into a vicious, downward slash aimed squarely at Dingtian's stomach, intending to execute opening up the stomach in one brutal motion. But in a split-second shift that defies all laws of physics and common sense, time itself seems to snap. Relying on the supernatural mastery of the pig-slaughtering sword technique, the forbidden, unranked art that returns to absolute simplicity, Dingtian moves with blinding, godlike speed.